Oh well. Oh
All
well. Let it be.
right.
The introduction going, tuning in to the Who's podcast here at Riverside FM. That's that commercial right there, man.
Powered by Riverside.
You are now tuned in to another episode, live episode on YouTube, Facebook, and Spotify. I'm Y Ooze Podcast with my boy Jay Bit in the house. Marlo, so what's up, bro?
What's happening, Uso?
To all the listeners, the new listeners, this podcast right here is to make all voices matter, man. We're talking about Polynesian folks, man. We're two brown skinned folks from the 684, 685 here to put our perspective on current events, on whatever's going on in this world, man. That's all we're here to talk about. So if you're new to the channel, subscribe as we are on our journey to get 10,000 followers. Yeah, Maloso, welcome. Welcome to the
What's
platform
happening?
again, bro.
What's
Not
happening?
much, man. Not much, bro. You called me this morning. We're ready to get into it, man. Let's not bore the viewers by what's going down. But which one do you want to start off with, man? You sent me some videos. By the way, disclaimer: videos that we're going to be playing here, YOOS does not own any of them. This is all pure entertainment purposes. So, without further ado, for all the social media platforms, do not try to ban us because we're just reviewing these videos. You know what I'm saying? Which one do you want to go with first, or do you want to talk about what you're talking about? Oos?
Well, let's go with the one that you mentioned. Like, seemed like the audience is interested in the Mu or the Lemurians
Mm-hmm.
instead of finance. I mean, I still like to share the finance related to help our coconut hits, but Lemurians or ancient knowledge or the mythology. Yeah, is that what
Sounds
you
good to
want?
me. Sounds good to me, man. Let's go ahead and cover it up. Let's get more too deep into it, bro. So, what is this Marianne, or also known as Moo?
Well, it was like as we go down to this rabbit hole, like
Mm.
we have to ask the question, like, how do we know we're not more than who we are as this physical being? How do we not know that we're more than this physical, like, human body that we have right now? Like, for example, we watch a lot of superhero movies, and it seemed like the portrays that we have superpowers. What if I say, just to entertain, like, our audience, that if we can reach our potential, we have superpower, telekinesis, telepathically, because nothing is real in this world. Everything is an illusion. And it seemed like this matrix or this illusion that we live in is created by, as the scholar call it, or the scientist said, that we created it, or higher beings than ourselves created this universe, or the demiurge, or so to speak, like, the creator of this physical universe observing this world. Yeah. Are you still would feel like related to this? What if this whole world's not real? That we're just here for an experience and we'll proceed back to the real world. And what I like to share is some of the scientific facts. This is facts. This is not mythology, or like, I will share some of the mythology or like ancient stories, but facts, scientific facts like we have right now, and the scientists are starting to study. Yeah, what do you
Okay.
think?
Yeah, sure. Because I'm still
Okay,
when you're saying like, what do you mean? Like, this is a possibility that this is not. I mean, we're to me, I feel like we're in the real world. I mean, I can feel people can die, people
yes,
can. survive, you know. So what do you mean by are you saying that there is another realm or another world after this?
Well, I'm not saying like this is just what I think, um, but many people are exploring this information that yes, this world is real. Like doubt that we're loved, and if we die, we die, and we have feelings related to this world right now. But what if there is more to it? That's all I'm saying.
Like a third, like a three, like a third dimension or something like that, like just something like
Multi-dimension,
like a multi
higher
dimension
dimensions,
where
fourth density, fifth density. You know what I'm saying? Like, what if we are more than who we are right now? Like, maybe in the future, we will explore our true potential, meaning like we can fly, we can communicate telepathically, we can telekinesis move things and change atoms or object into different shapes. That sounds crazy,
so
right?
it probably be for me if you was to pitch it like J Bed, what if I was to tell you that the world that you're living in right now, that you are only using maybe 5% of your capability.
Yes. Okay. There you
You
go.
know, there you
That's it.
go.
That's where we're heading,
Yep.
and we're more than the last time we talked about the move. For some reason, that caught fire, right? And the
Yes.
move,
And then I'm
like
gonna
I
say
was
to you,
saying,
why, Oos? Why do you say that
why
to us,
use?
bro?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why? Well, mythology. Like I'm saying, I don't necessarily believe in this. For those who doesn't know, I'm a ordained minister. So
So what
background,
the
right?
well, so first of all, what is a mythology? Just to educate myself, put me I have a little bit of an understanding of it, but just to make sure that we're clear. What is mythology?
Or they're ancient stories that were passed on to generation to generation, whether true or not. That's up to you to decide.
And then why does everything in the English word always ends with a G? GY. Everything's like a, you know, biology, triology.
Well,
You get what I'm
I'm not
saying,
sure
bro?
about
Do you
that.
understand? Yeah. So, anyways,
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
just
not
only
sure.
talking from a coconut's mind. Like, why does
It
everything
was
gotta have a G on the end, or a
well,
G? You ever thought about that, Oos?
yeah. You have to ask the English, like majors over here.
Anyways, yeah,
I
before we
know
stare out, bro.
English. Well, let's stay on the subject. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
just to know what the appetite of our audience. Yeah, just
Hmm.
related to science. And as you know, I'm in a science field related to communication and electricity. So, but I wanted to explore that related to what if this world that we're living in is not real? Yes,
Okay, let's
but
go
there
with
are
that.
rules. But there are rules in this world that we have to play by. One, you can choose the negative, like side. You can choose the positive side, and the positive side, they call it the light beings or the qualities of the divine beings or God that we so call, right? That's all. And then you know in electricity, when I was building circuit boards related to thermostat, resistors, and all that, what I found a common thing for a current. I was trying to find the fastest way to get back to the source. I mean, this is I'm just speaking about like electricity. It doesn't matter if you put parallel, path down the road. It will always find the easiest, fastest way to get back to the source. So, if you remember the last time I talked to about the first law of thermodynamics, that we all came from singularity or a source, that we ended up going back to it, and scientifically proven we're all energy. I mean, like your your body, right? We're made of 50 plus trillion cells. Us, did you know each cells contains, if you look it up, each our individual cells contains zero point zero 0.07 potential electricity, 0.04, 0.007, something like that. You know what I mean? Like, did you know about that?
No, I have no
No.
idea. You lost me
So,
at like the point zero and all the electricity in our body.
so
But I
electricity,
can tell, I can see why, because If you're grabbing a doorknob or something, you touch the surface of something,
Bingo.
you get
Yeah.
you get that static, and you're like, you get shocked.
Yeah. 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 Because your body's unbalanced. It has to be balanced with the positive and negative. And when you walk, it creates a friction. Friction. It creates like unbalance in your body. So our body is a conductor. So in individual cells, we have 0.007, 0.004, 0.04, whatever. So in other words, you
And
have
what is
50.
that? What is that point off of when you're saying 0.00? Like there's like a little piece or a little bit of energy or electricity in our body. Is that what you when you're saying 0.00? I'm not good at math, so that's why I'm trying to get
Oh,
educated, bro.
yeah. So if I say like, 0.07, 0.004, whatever electricity in your body. But I think if I look it up, I didn't write it down. You have your body, body right now has the potential to power your whole city. Potential. Mhm. You know that video game that came out a long time ago? Like, that guy that has electricity in his body? Oh, I forgot what it is.
Sonic the
And
Hedgehog.
no, there was another guy like, what? But
Oh,
look it up.
Raiden from Street Fighter.
Well, there was another one. Like in our cells has voltage that
Okay.
it's potential. I'm not saying you can use it, but they call it scientifically said potential voltage. You can power up the whole city with your body. So it's our body's energy. But anyways, so um, well, I'd like to go with this. Nikola Tesla, my famous electricity, or many call them, he's a genius of our time. We use his technology. Nikola Tesla, you remember him?
Yeah, you mentioned him before. I only know of Elon Musk, but
Yeah,
Nikola Tesla has something to do like his theory where Elon
yeah.
used.
So Nikola Tesla discovered the alternating current, and all his discoveries, he discovered it, and he say is already exist. He just discovered you realizing how the magnetic field in our universe, where Earth works. So he's the one who discovered the theory of like wireless and all that, like alternate current and everything that we use nowadays. So I wanted a quote from Nikola Tesla. His quote was, I wanted to use it for our topic today. He said, "The day science began to study non-physical phenomenon, it will make more progress in one decade than in all the previous centuries of its existence."
What does he
I
mean
read,
by that?
said the day science began to study non-physical phenomena, it will make more progress in one decade than in all the previous century of existence. So what he's trying to say, like, as soon as the science turn to study the non-physical world, we'll make more progress than ever before.
Okay, so
You
like
know what I mean?
what we're basically at the Moon Nation and all that stuff.
Yeah, they're like the spirits, the energy, and all that. So you have to go back to Tesla time, back way then in that okay, I hate to do this to the Catholics and all that. Council of Trent, Council of Trent of Roman Catholic, they came together and they say, okay, all right, you scientists, you study the physical universe. But we, the Pope and the priest and all that, we study the spiritual.
Yep, the
And the
spiritual
moment,
realm.
yeah, the Council of Trent said, the moment you scientists cross over to try to study the non-physical, like universe, will kill you. And what did the history shows about related to that fact of
A
the
lot of people
science?
got destroyed. A lot of
Yeah,
people got destroyed,
exactly.
taken out.
Oh, yeah, a lot of people got burned, persecuted, and all that. Even Galileo. Galileo was the only thing was like, hey, the Earth is going around the sun, and the church was like, no, you're defying the church. The sun goes around the Earth, and you know what? They burned him alive. So in that time, nobody defies the church. Scientists scientists stay out of the way. So they basically develop a culture that science is separate from spirituality. And you know what's happening right now? We have those culture as right now. If you notice, all the scientists say, "Oh, you go to church? Oh, you're uneducated. You stay on your lane." You go to your church. We're scientists. We know better than you. So you see, there's two cultures right now that we see. It all goes back to Council of Trent because of that separation. So that's why we are separate and related to, oh, well, science is separate from churches and spirituality or faith, as they call it.
According
So,
to your research of what you
yes, according
read
to
and
research,
researched.
because it all goes back to what you mentioned, the European colonized in the church. You know what I'm saying? Like when they came,
Yeah, let
they
me backtrack on that. Yeah. So just
Mhm.
to what Jay Bid is talking about, folks, is when we were before our recording, our live recording session, we discussed among each other of how I said that us being Polynesian, so whatever country has colonized your island or your country, and then that place has been rooted with the beliefs of whatever that beliefs is. For example, UK, European, they have colonized a lot of the Pacific Islands, which then brought in the practice of Christianity. You have Asia, which obviously, whatever the dynasty is, they brought in Buddhism. You go to India, Hinduism, and all sorts. And then, of course, the East, the Middle East of the Iran or whatever you call the practices. What? Go ahead, bro.
Yeah, exactly. So now let's go back to, because of the Council of Trent is separate, like scientist versus spirituality. But now we want to combine science and spirituality. Now we're starting to have a progression to relate it to study the, as Tesla call it like studying the non-physical phenomena. So first, the subject that I love is, I always like have a fond for, is called quantum mechanics. And I said use a few videos related to what is quantum mechanics. They're like the building blocks of the whole world. Just to put it simple, like everything is made of atom. So what I wanted to share with you, as I mentioned earlier, that this reality is not real, and one is based on scientific fact. And I sent you a video called a double slit experiment that was tested numerous times by scientists. It's called the double slit experiment, and it's interesting. Can you play it first before we proceed to discuss this?
When a laser emits beams of light particles called photons at a screen with two slits, you'd expect to see two strips to correspond with the two slits. Instead, we see a pattern of light and dark bands. This suggests that light behaves like waves that pass through both slits simultaneously, interfering with each other to create the pattern on the second screen. However, when scientists used a measuring device to observe the slit that each photon passed through, the interference pattern disappeared and two strips appeared. The act of observing which slit it went through changed the behavior of the photons. No one knows why observing a particle causes its behavior to change.
Okay, Liz, what do you think?
Self-explanatory.
Okay, so you have any question related to that? Like related to particles of what we're made of?
What is the whole point of the two slits? Like it's obviously going into different
So,
directions.
yeah. So the point of this is, there are photons. They're like particles, right?
Okay.
We're all made of atoms. So what it is when you look at these particles or photon shooting, when you look at it, it acts as like a single, as they call it, like a point. Like you only see like a laser point, right? You see a laser going through it, and in the back wall you see like dots, just one row of dots, right? You still with me?
Yes.
So, but what happened is the scientists realized when they go eat lunch and all that without observing, what they realize is that they can continue to shoot those, it acts differently. It behaves differently. It's like there's no one thought like a laser. It acts like as a wave, like appears different way all over. You know what I'm saying?
And what do
So
they think what was the cause of it?
the observation, the measurement. So when you there's a conscious person or measurement to look at it, it enforces the atom to behave in a certain way. Okay, let me break this down to help our. Like I'm looking at you, I'm holding a laptop computer. So because I'm looking at this, it behaves as a computer. It's a solid state, like atom. But according to this science, like scientific, if I look away, this computer doesn't exist. It moves around. It floats around. Mm-mm.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wherever
but
your
that's
sight of direction is going, that's where your focus is at, I guess.
yes, because we're consciously observing it. If anything, like a conscious being will observe it, it will create a, a dot. But if you don't, that dot will create it acts as like, for example, Kenny, you're there. I'm looking at you, Kenny. But if I don't focus on you, Kenny, there's no Kenny. Kenny will be here. Kenny will be in Italy. Kenny will be in like Europe. Kenny, there's multiple Kennys. There's no Kennys. Like that's according to scientific, like double split experiment, and that's a fact. You can look up. It's deep. So it's reality. What creates this physical universe? Mm.
Okay, I'm starting to understand
Okay.
where you're getting at with this. You carry on.
Am I?
Yeah, like
Am
there's like it's wherever your focus or your vision is at, that's what you're committing yourself to. But if you take the step back and process it from what you studied and implement that in, then you're able to visualize or even come to believe into there's more to what you what the eye only is able to see.
yeah, that's right. That there you go. That's it. We're going to that same. It's how we perceive and consciously perceive something. It will come like real.
Yeah.
That's what they're saying, and we'll get to it. But it's now we're getting to more of a collective, like thinking or conscious to believe in a certain way that builds the whole reality that we're in. So
Okay.
yeah. So and then I'm again, this is scientific facts. I'm not like just pulling this out of my butt. So
Yeah.
the next one is the video I sent you is called quantum entanglement. Now this is the one like me and one of my friends would discuss lengthily related to quantum entanglement. The second video.
Let's say we take two electrons very close together and they vibrate in unison. Everything vibrates. Two particles together vibrate in unison. Now separate them. As you separate these two coherent particles, an invisible umbilical cord starts to develop between these two particles, such that if you wiggle one particle, then the other particle is aware of the fact that its partner is being wiggled. So far, so good, right? But now separate these particles by the distance of the galaxy itself. So here on one end of the galaxy, we wiggle an electron, and on the other side of the galaxy, 100,000 light years distance, instantly, faster than the speed of light, the other particle is aware of the fact that its twin is wiggling. Let's say we take.
Okay.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah. So he's talking about like two particles get it associated for the period of time, and you pull one out and send it to Mars. Whatever I do with this one particle will affect that one, and even time. If you throw that one, like in the different time, whatever I do with this particle, it will affect the other one. Then, and people don't realize, uh, because of we have a heavy mass here on Earth, time moves a lot slower in space versus Earth, and they have a scientific proof of that, of a pilot flying around the Earth. Like time moves a lot slower up there than down here. In other words, if you send a pilot up there and make them go faster like the speed of light, they will come down here, they will time travel, and everybody will be old. And that's scientific facts. You know, that's, I'm not making this up. Gravity, heavy mass here on Earth, times move a little bit faster, but up there is move slower unless you move faster than the speed of light. You will time travel up there in space with speed of light. When you come back, everybody's old. So that's scientific fact. That's proven. So related to what he just mentioned, two particle if I entangle, you know what that just throw out the theory of the speed of light, it's faster. Quantum entanglement, whatever you entangle, it doesn't matter in space, somewhere in the universe, whatever you do with this particle, it will affect that one. But that's Einstein called it the spooky, theory. He went down unhappy because he couldn't figure out what that is. But it's entanglement, because what happened is the scientists now realize when you put two particles together and you pull it apart, they became one wavelength. So it doesn't matter whether you send it way out of space, they're interconnected. Like, remember we talked about it? Everything is connected. There's a field out there that's connected. So, and that's why people feel like the scientists, oh, there's a possibility that we can break our atoms apart and transport to a different planet if we come up with the technology, because everything is interconnected related to that theory. Well, it's not a theory now, quantum mechanics or quantum entanglement. Anyways, what do you think, man? I mean, did I got you lost?
No, you haven't got me lost. The thing is, it seems like the science has proven its theory, but we have not witnessed it, where you're saying that our bodies can actually multiply to pieces and transport to something else,
Right.
or go to something else. Like, we haven't physically witnessed that. Or could it be because our eyes are a lot slower than the way the speed of lightning goes? Is that what
Right.
it is? We don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, the only thing that comes close to that is when you either
So,
gaining weight or losing weight, physical wise, is the
okay.
only difference of it.
What like I mentioned earlier, what if we're not there yet? Maybe that time has come. We'll
But
come.
why is it taking this so long though? For centuries and years,
Well,
if we're not
perhaps
there yet.
perhaps like the last time we talked about, we're being programmed to suppress ourselves of
So is
knowledge.
it almost like fairy tales? Here's an example. They make a lot of movies and books, and even books about Santa Claus, somebody you believe in, or even the demigods or gods themselves. And when the
Okay.
people stop believing in them, that's their power. That's where their power goes away then, because now we're no longer entertaining it. Having that spirit of like, oh, it's Christmas, Santa Claus is going to come give all the kids presents,
Right.
or God or demigods in the islands, like they're no longer being practiced or believed in.
Right.
Is that a
Well,
possible reason?
yeah. So, like I said, all these things, whatever you believe is up to you, right? These are
Yes.
just information, and what I'm sharing is scientific facts now. It's not what I do, but what I like to do is lay it all out, right?
Yeah,
Lay
put
out
it out there for the viewers, for those
for the
that
viewers, lay
they
it
have the
all
same
out,
thinking.
and see which one will come first. And what I talked to you the last time, look for patterns. You look for something that, okay, that makes sense, that align with nature, right? So perhaps we're approaching the age uh, that we're all going to be like, we'll eventually receive the divine knowledge, how to go about it, the golden age, as some of them speak. But all I'm saying is, what sharing is perhaps the reality is not real, but we feel like it's real. But you have to play the game. Like,
Whoa,
okay,
whoa, whoa!
well,
I just thought about something, bro.
yeah,
Could
like,
I just thought about something, man?
okay,
I'm gonna just throw a ranch in there on you. What if like what you just talked about, right? Because you know it's always there's always individuals or a group of people
I know.
that are very powerful to persuade a population or a community to change their mindset and to become slave to them. What
Uh-huh.
if this new thing is called AI,
Yeah.
artificial intelligence, meaning that they're advertising it on the media. They're trying to force people's mindset to be like, look, man, this is the future. But what if we already have that already going, but they're just throwing a little bit of nugget in there and still painting, covering up and making it sound like, oh, it's a technology thing. But us as human beings are not realizing as a group, as a world, to come to our senses and be like, no, we are all gods or creators of
Mhm.
certain things. You know what I'm saying? I just thought about that, bro.
Okay. So your question is about
What if AI is the next antichrist for all the Christians who they say?
oh, so that's
What
what
if
you're
it's
trying to say.
yeah,
Oh,
trying to
okay.
blind us still? You
That's
see what I'm
that's
saying?
uh that's a valid question related to this. Well, as I'm trying to describe, we are more than, I believe, like based on what research and other. It seems like our body is more than we're capable more than AI. And
Yes.
there's this new agenda of AI, and it seemed like they're trying to incorporate neural links, like technology, put things in our brain, and more like computerized or like robots in our bodies. But what there's a big warning from the spiritual teachers. They say don't do that because our body is more than those,
Yes.
because our body contains, I call it light beings. We're, like I said, we're from the source, from God, right? The divine, their energy, light beings. Well, many call it soul, but I like the word light because it comes from source. But if you decide to put those things in your body, then you're destroying the most powerful system ever created. It's your human body. And that's why I'm talking about our human bodies. What if we're being suppressed what our human body is capable of?
I
Like,
believe
yeah,
that. I believe
yeah,
that
so,
because it's even trained in the military. Now, again, for those, I was never in the military. My wife has, and I've been associated
mhm,
around a whole bunch or affiliated with a group and community of military. And I used to work out with a few of them, and I always used to hear that saying, "Mind over matter,"
yes,
and it's basically, I might be saying it wrong, but it has something to do with like when we're doing some workouts, something I've never done in my life, like let's just say run for 3 miles. In
yes,
my mind, because I've never done it before, I'm judging myself that, oh man, this is impossible. But then after doing it, the whole point was is like you have to trigger your brain because your body can handle more than what your brain is telling you it can handle. There you go.
there you go. Awesome.
Mhm.
Yeah. Then, did you know that the Bible contained that principle? Like Jesus talks
Yeah,
about that.
yeah.
Yeah.
I knew
It's a
growing up in
belief.
Pentecostal, our whole point was like,
It's it's
the faith,
power of the mind.
belief. Yeah.
Power of the mind, power of the belief.
Hmm.
And then he said, when you pray, well, you got to understand, Jesus is trying to talk to deep rooted religious people. So he has the understanding, but it's kind of like make them progress. Like, well, you have to have the belief and pray and believe that it's already happened, then eventually it's going to happen. But again, our brain, like you said, is being programmed to be negative of what our upbringing, right? Remember the last time we talked about it, to
Yeah.
be locked in a certain way of thinking that that's how we know and we believe that's the only way, like our cultures, religion, uh, governmental system. But if we break out of that, or if we come out of that, as the spiritual teachers talks about, perhaps we're more than what the beliefs is, and we're gonna get to the point of utilizing the power of our mind and our body, be able to perhaps have some superpowers. That's all I'm saying. And we'll go back. I will go back to that Lumerian, but I wanted to continue to show some of those videos because I don't want to get distracted. I will talk about it. Like the third video talks about DNA and phantom effect. Yeah, would you mind showing that?
Got you, brother.
Mhm.
In a groundbreaking experiment, scientists Poponin and Garyaev explored how DNA influences light particles or photons in a vacuum tube. Initially, as expected, photons were scattered randomly inside the empty tube. However, upon introducing human DNA, the photons organized into distinct patterns, defying conventional physics. Even more astonishing, when the DNA was removed, the photons remained ordered, suggesting a lingering, unseen influence. This phenomenon, that was named as the DNA phantom effect, hinted at an unknown energy field linking DNA to photons. The findings imply a profound connection between living material and the fundamental particles of our universe. Poponin's work suggests that our DNA can shape the very fabric of reality, offering a glimpse into a mysterious new force at play. This revelation opens the door to a deeper understanding of how life interacts with the energy around us, transforming both science and spirituality.
There you go. So, as they discovered in with that experiment, I forgot what year, I wrote it down in my notes, that the German scientists they suck all the vacuum out of this tube, right? And the only
Mm.
thing was left in this tube was photons. Photons, it's light, you know. And what happened is they're all over the place. But as soon as they inserted blood or DNA, human DNA into, you know what started happening? Like it described, it moves in a pattern,
A
moves in a
certain pattern.
DNA.
Yeah, it's an own DNA, and when you remove the DNA,
Yeah,
that pattern is
exactly.
still there,
So,
exists.
so how is this applied to us? So it shows that this physical body, your body, Kenny, and my Kenny, or my body, can affect the exterior world. That's what it's trying to say. Like this world's move like until this physical body is interact with that. And you know what they say? The power of our mind, like you said earlier, is powerful. Can perhaps it affects the exterior things. And I hate to say this because many people will say, oh, that's law of attraction. Well, yeah, you can say law of attraction, but these things been around for a long time. That's what the new movement of the new age and all that. I'm not for them, but these it's been around for ages. That like we talked about, there's a field that governs everything, that connects everything, you know, and that's what people are starting to realize, and scientists are starting to prove, well, they are proving there's a field that interconnect everything. It's just how we use that field. That's the next stage. It seems like the evolution of man are moving toward to. But the problem is because of our belief and government suppressing certain knowledge or belief that we're not capable of doing it yet, but it seems like we have the capability of doing it. It all goes back to, well, anyways, let's show our last video, then we'll talk more about that. Going back to, you know, the 100 monkeys effect. Then we'll talk more about that. Mm. If you can show the 100 monkey effect.
When this baby monkey washed a sweet potato, she started what scientists later called the 100 monkey effect. Her mother saw her and quickly learned that washing food could remove dirt, and gradually, more and more macaque monkeys started doing the same. Here's where it gets weird. These monkeys were on a remote island, and when 100 of them learned to wash their food, monkeys on other islands that didn't have any physical contact with the first group also started washing their food. Scientists believe that the 100 monkey effect happens when a critical number of individuals in a group learn a behavior. It spontaneously spreads to others, even across physical barriers. But it's just speculation, and we only have anecdotal evidence for it.
Yes.
Bro, the new thing right now is called social media. Influencers.
Exactly.
Influencers. Yeah.
Now you're getting there. That's where I'm going. You know,
Mhm.
because in ancient time or our ancestors, there's no interconnect like thinking they unify worldwide. But because of social media, internet, and all that, we're trying to come in harmony, right? A certain thinking that is almost, if it based on this, it can create a certain level of reality or moving to a higher consciousness, as they call it. So, how is this related to our last subject? Related? Well, in mythology or ancient history, the Atlanteans was before Adam and Eve, right? And I'll try to keep it short. And before them were the Moors or the Lemurians, right? It seemed like that was the popular one.
Yeah, but
Lemurians.
let's cover the Atlantis.
Okay, the Atlantis.
Base it off of everything that you just shared with us for the past 20 minutes. Let's go ahead and close it out
Well,
with the Atlantis.
so Atlantis is Plato. If you look up Plato, the Greek philosopher is big on Atlantis. He talks about Atlantis was real, and he was initiated by the same traditions that Salmon carry, like story passed on down and on. But what I wanted to get to you before we close this out, what time we got?
We got
Oh,
20
40.
minutes, bro. You got 20 minutes, brother. You're good.
Okay. So what I'm trying to explain is, I go back to Tesla. Talks about studying the non-phenomenal, non-physical items, non-physical, or basically quantum mechanics. Right now, we have scientists are diving into that. Now it's hard to understand how the energy and those things work. So psychics. There's a That will lead me to Edgar Casey, Virginia Beach. Virginia Beach. You're from there. There's a museum of a well-known sleeping prophet called himself Edgar Casey, and he's a devout Christian, has a certain gift, and because of him, they document so many like prediction and things in the past. In other words, he said he can be able to tap into this field, like we're talking about, this matrix field that collects information and use that information to help individuals, such as health issues, and help them to heal. He was the originator of the holistic medicine or natural medicine. So, but in us, we call it psychic. But in scientists, you know what the word they call it now?
What
Remote
is
viewing. That's a scientific term. Remote viewing. And if you look at CIA project Stargate, they had a group of people they gathered in US to study to have that certain gift of remote viewers, in meaning they can tap in this field and be able to perceive things. And and they also have an institute like his name is Robert Monroe. He has a whole institution of teaching people how to remote view. So what I'm trying to say is, Edgar Casey, he foresee the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls. The Dead Sea Scrolls, well, for the Bible knowledge, I'm a Bible teacher, Bible scholar, like you related to that. It was discovered in 1940s. He died in 1942 or 43. And 10 years before that, he predicted that, okay, there's a group called the Essenes that carried this manuscript that Jesus came from the Essenes. Like, what were they? Qumran, that's when they discovered the Dead Sea Scrolls in the caves, were um, the book of Isaiah, like 2,000 year older than the surviving manuscript right now. And they also predict that's where Jesus was taught. Yeshua that we know of. And it makes sense because when we think about John, he talks about he's from the wood, right? The woods, like he's from like middle of nowhere, but the Essenes were from the woods, from the caves. So what I'm trying to say is that there is a potential in all of us. And it seemed like we're moving to a certain age, as we call it, or the Bible call it Armageddon, and with destruction and everybody go to heaven. But what if that's not, the real prophecy? What if we're moving to the different age of, as I mentioned previously, Aquarius, meaning according to the Eastern beliefs is incarnation, right? And what happened is, as Kenny, as your mom passed away, you go back to the real world, and that's we're eternal beings. I'm just saying this. I don't necessarily believe it. I'm telling the story how the Eastern beliefs is. Yep, you still with me? You mentioned you feel like you're a god. Perhaps all the Eastern beliefs say, yeah, you are. Because why? First law of thermodynamics. Energy cannot be destroyed. We're from the same source. You have this internal spark, internal energy of God. And that's what the Gnostic Christians were talking about. Uh, they said there's this divine spark in us, but what happened is we're being suppressed by church government that you can't. All we rely now is outside. Okay, can I get a car? Can I car? I have to depend on a certain belief. I have to depend on like Jesus to save me, that or certain things. But in the Gospels, and even like the Gospel of Thomas talks about, Kenny, you have to look inside. That's what, and you have to put in practice. Like we have to bring the spark out, and that's the only way to get to it, to be able to ascend, that so to speak. And that's the Eastern teachings. So, in other words, what if we're approaching a new age, and the new age is that's the age of Aquarius, and that's when unified belief of humans, and we'll build technology, and there's no more government. It's more like going back to the Atlantean style and Lemurian style. There's no government, and more like beings that go in and out. What if that's the future? So, what do you think?
That's an interesting take right there, brother. It really is, man, because it's possible and only time will tell.
Yeah.
Reason why I say that, because I'm not alone at this, where I feel like, I was God sent. I feel like a lot of our folks are aware of that, and they bring their inner self to calling out to them. But like you said, we get suppressed, whether it's by a relationship that you're in, your surrounding that you're in, or the job that you're in. It just depends what kind of lifestyle that you're currently in, changes your mind thinking of things. Could it also be too why a lot of like, the current news is like Puff Daddy, and
Hmm.
then the other guy from the actor, the Epstein Island.
Yep.
See, those are just one of the icons or the figureheads on the main screen that are like getting butchered because of the way they live their life and how they choose. I understand that the world is all about attacking them because of them with the way they treat women, but could it be that these two who came from nowhere, they were just poor people like us, who was able to find something, and because of their belief in a capability in themselves, they started acting as if they were God, which then the world disapproves of, disapprove of, especially in the West of Christianity. Then paints them out to be perverts or just not right-minded people. I think a lot of that has to play of why these men have acted the way that they acted towards human being. Never mind just women, but children. They have were able to see the potential that they actually have, that they're more than just human. At least from their actions.
Right. I
If
mean,
that makes sense.
okay, so you're saying they act like gods, right? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes.
What they, and that's what the law of one was talking about. Like I mentioned it with you. It talks about we're all gods, right?
Hmm.
We came from the same source. It just today it's just right now, Kenny, your life right now, it's just one of your lives, of your many lives in the past, like you live, and then, but depending of two polarities, two energies, right? Remember, there's a positive and negative,
Hmm.
and the godly polarity is it's obvious, right? Like positive, the light
Yes.
beings, right? And there's a negative one, which is so they may recognize yes of negative, and then the negative you can tell negative polarities, people that affect people in a negative way. That's how you see it. It's not you have to follow certain rules. Like we talked about this a while back. So like whatever you do, does it affect people in a good way or a bad way? It's like, does it affect, that's when it's going negative. But if you affect people in a loving way, because God is love, everything's about love, then you're raising your vibration to the higher being. And that's what I did mention. They said if you reach a certain light level of being as compassion, love, and humility, then you enter because of ourselves. So ourselves were being so programmed to be stressed, right? And to be negative, to angry and all that. So we're always on the fight or flight mode. And what happened is our DNA is kind of like contract, is like stress out. But if you show compassion and love and kindness and in tune with your meditation and prayer, so your DNA start to unwind and release and start to create more DNAs. So what I'm trying to say is, if you reach that level of like Jesus or Christ like love, compassion on it, then you can be able to do miraculous things. That's the truth. Seem like it.
I appreciate you, J Bit, for always coming on our platform to
Mhm.
put us into making our minds and look at a perspective in a different way. Because I feel at time a lot of our Polynesian folks are so, like you said, suppressed by the current estate that we're in, whether it's in beliefs or in the culture that we're in. So I thank you for the time, bro. Unfortunately, that we're gonna have to cut it short right now due to unforeseen circumstances that just happened the next 5 minutes ago. But yeah, brother, we need to continue this on, man. To the listeners, I hope you enjoy it. Comment below. Let us know what you guys think about it, because we were going to talk about the Moo and the Atlantis. But hey, to be continued, y'all. Tune in. Let us know if that's something that you guys like, man. Drop a comment below the link, man. Let us know what's up, man.
Yes, sir. And stay positive. Be godlike. That's all I gotta say.
I like that, man. Be godlike, man. Kenny
Godlike.
Mofanua. Kenny,
Love, compassion, and kindness and prayer. That's all it is. That's what it
He's-
matters.
he said it.
Tales of the hustle, dreams come alive. Building the future, watch them strive. Why use? Tune in and vibe the drive. Why use? Tune in and vibe the drive.
Yeah, lower tax may